Good evening. We'd like to open the Planning Board meeting of Wednesday, September 13th at 7 p.m. Present tonight, we have Guy Horn, Vice Chairman, Pam Humphrey, Clerk to the Board, Mark Marziotti, Chairman, and Town Planner Don Johnson. We are expecting Sean, as he indicated earlier, that he would be attending this meeting tonight, so we wanted to start on time, and hopefully he arrives. So before we get started, I wanted to share with the audience that we obviously have an agenda item tonight, the A&R for Linda Vista Lane. If for some reason Sean does not show up, we don't have a majority board without Guy, as he has to recuse himself as it's a personal matter. So it would just leave Pam and myself, and unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to vote on an A&R lot. However, if Sean does show up, we will proceed with that agenda item, so we'll skip over it until then. So moving on, we have item A, which is approval of meeting minutes. Actually, before I do that, I wanted to make another general statement regarding a previously approved agenda item, which was the cell phone tower located on Hall Road in Dudley. So as a note regarding the cell phone tower on Hall Road that was previously approved, the town has been served regarding a suit in opposition. So for that reason, we're not going to be discussing that topic at all. So just wanted to make a note of that and make sure the town and the folks here are aware of that. Now moving forward on to agenda item A, approval of meeting minutes, August 23rd, 2017. And I'm looking for a motion to have those approved.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the planning board minutes from Wednesday, August 23rd, 2017, as written.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Great. We've got a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the August 23rd meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous? So we'll sign those. I think they're probably in here. So item B was the A&R Linda Vista Lane, so we'll just pass over that, hopefully temporarily. Item C, discussion on finishing construction of and acceptance of unaccepted subdivision streets. Don, any update on that?
Not anything in particular on any one subdivision, but George Slingo said he will be coming in the 27th relative to Toby Farm Estates. And okay. I'm waiting to hear from Dan Healy.
Heaney.
Heaney.
Yeah.
Heaney, okay. Waiting to hear from him as well. And if he doesn't get back to me within a week, so I'll give him a call.
Okay. Very good. All right, item D, fall 2017 town meeting warrant articles, potential amendments to zoning bylaws.
I have drafts here.
Okay.
5 articles if we're looking at.
Thank you.
The whole thing? Which one are we looking at? Yeah, I think we're all set.
Ready?
Yep.
The first one you have is really very simple. That's just to amend the special permit section relative to the fact that the legislature and the statute recently changed the allowance of the town to complete a special permit from 2 years to 3 years. So that's just making that change to the zoning bylaw to keep consistent with the state law. The second one, if you recall, we had two definitions of frontage that are actually consistent with each other. So what we're looking to do is to amend the zoning bylaws definitions to include one definition of frontage and remove the existing definition of the word frontage and remove the lot frontage in this definition totally. I work with Nelson on this one too.
Hmm.
So we're trying to get it consistent.
So currently it says lot frontage, and you want to change it to the word frontage, or our
Currently, we have
proposal is-
definitions of both. We just
Okay.
changed it to one.
And so you're just trying to be consistent?
Right.
Okay.
Don, I read through this, and the only thing that I thought that maybe we would want to strike out would be the word horizontal. Because like a lot that's on a cul-de-sac where it has a radius or a circumference,
Yeah, it's not exactly horizontal.
no, so somebody might get confused with that
Okay.
kind of frontage. So I think your definition is fine, just strike the word horizontal and have it,
Got
the
it.
distance measured along the front street lot line between points of intersection of the side lot lines.
Good point. You in agreement with that, Don?
Not any problem with that, then. It's a good point. On the arc of a cul-de-sac, it might, or even a curve.
Right.
Some instances, yeah.
Okay.
Next one is something we talked about at the last meeting. We were talking about, we were looking at some definitions for some certain terms relative to motor vehicles. What we came up with is commercial motor vehicle gross vehicle weight rating, commercial motor vehicle heavy, commercial motor vehicle light, auto home, house trailer, recreational vehicle, and truck camper. The commercial motor vehicle definitions and those were pretty much out of the applicable portions of the statute. And same with the RV-related definitions, except for the truck camper, which really came from the internet.
So Don, I looked at these, and I think they're great, but I don't know if adding these definitions to our bylaw,
I don't know if it gives anything to it. In fact, it may even conflict with the part of the use table. That's what I wanted to talk about too. We may want to hold this on hold to the next town meeting or something and study it a little bit further.
yeah, because I didn't see where this basically solves the problem that was in question by a resident.
Well, if you look too, what I found also is in the bylaw itself, there's a reference to, look on the third page of this particular handout. There's a reference to campground as a recreational use. There's a definition of campground as well. A plot of ground upon which two or more campsites are located, established or maintained for occupancy by camping units of the general public, as temporary living quarters for recreation, education, and vacation purposes. So it's two or more campsites, and at least one motorhome.
So that's not a definition of a campground, right?
One motorhome is the definition of a campground according to this section.
No, but if that person was to put a tent up next to it,
We'd expect to see two motorhomes, I guess. I really don't want to do anything that will aggravate an existing situation either. Say, for example, heavy commercial vehicles, the second page of the handout.
Mm-hmm.
The definition of heavy commercial vehicles, that may include, say, an electrician or a plumber, drive his truck home at night.
Right.
We certainly don't want to exclude that,
or somebody who drives a school bus for the town.
yeah.
I know when we were talking about this a couple weeks ago, it was suggested it would be brought up to like the Board of Health, because it was said that people were living there. Was it ever brought to their attention?
I don't know.
No?
I didn't hear any additional feedback after our meeting and the recommendation that we made. I'm not sure that we sent anything to the plaintiff. Okay. But I think the reason why we were doing this was because it says in the existing bylaw, it specifically states a class of vehicle, and I forget which one it said, whether it was, was it just a general term of commercial?
Light commercial vehicles are permitted, heavy commercial vehicles are not permitted.
Okay.
But then
So
that's-
I think it's important that we define what heavy and light is for the purposes of this bylaw. So I think this is headed in the right direction, but I think it may need more, so we're saying heavy, a commercial motor vehicle with a gross vehicle weight rating in excess of, oh, okay, so it does list specific.
With that, it's kind of iffy too, because like you said, a school bus or electrician's truck, they go over that. You may be able to put something there about the homeowner, for having the permission to park there, for his own vehicle. I don't know if you want to go there, but.
Again, you can get into all kinds of descriptions but obviously there was a question about, the way it's currently written, in that, we couldn't determine what was heavy, what was light.
Yeah.
Well, right now, there's no criteria.
Right.
So if we add this criteria, we just have to make sure that we're not gonna hurt a lot of residents with the vehicles that they have currently parked in their driveway or on their property.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, somebody who drives tractor trailer and brings the tractor home at night and to go pick up a trailer the next day or something,
Yeah.
I'm sure those tractors weigh more than 2.5 tons.
Yeah.
That is pretty much a utility van, I'd say.
Yeah, but the other definition, I don't know where you found that, but was parked in successive days or weeks, or also, isn't that in the bylaw? Where did you see that?
Days per
In the
week.
current?
I did not see that.
Yeah, I don't know what the current bylaw states.
We can address that.
So obviously, if it was a school bus, or it was a plumbing truck, or it was a whatever, a large electrician's truck, it wouldn't be classified as that because it's there and, at night and it leaves in the morning or whatever. Same thing with a bus. Do you recall what that bylaw stated? Was it successive days or?
I don't,
All right. So my recommendation is going to be that we don't have enough information for this one, and at least at this time. What's our deadline for submitting these?
we haven't heard about the warrant being opened yet, but I presume it's in about 3 weeks.
It will be open in 3 weeks?
It'll be open in about 3 weeks, I would think.
Okay. So we may have time if we wanted to, verify what the current bylaw says, and then if it in fact does say in successive days or something that can be a better descriptor, and after understanding that, if, identifying the weights of heavy and light, then maybe we can revisit it. So you want to research that maybe and let us know our next meeting?
Right, I can do that.
Okay.
By the way, on that handout, you'll see that there's a website at the bottom. That's not really part of the article. That's just a website you can go to. It'll give you information on vehicle type
Okay.
classifications.
Okay.
Very good. All right, so I'm just gonna put hold on this one. The other two, I'm okay with if you guys are.
Yep.
Okay. Third one, Don?
The third one is, we're talking about the amendments to the section about solar energy, solar voltaic operations.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm suggesting we can the company can come up to well did it. Well, nevertheless, we would add a new district, an overlay district for solar voltaic installations,
Mm-hmm.
and would be added to the zoning map, and it would be a special permit for a large-scale solar installation in that particular overlay district. I think we need to discuss the parameters of the district, what we might want to have for areas, and what lots we might want to use, what criteria we might be looking for. I actually have a topo map of the town,
Mm-hmm.
compiled from about 9 pages of the USGS maps, but nevertheless, it's all there.
Okay.
The one thing I want to consider is self-assistance. Let's give you some idea. I also have the zoning map. I'll show you the issues, obviously.
So you're suggesting south-facing slopes?
That's certainly one thing we're looking for.
Yeah, because the solar would be optimal facing south.
Mm-hmm.
2 degrees to the east or west is not so bad.
Yeah. So regarding an overlay district, the way I understand that works is we add a new district called an overlay district, and then we have certain parameters within that district as far as what's permitted and what's not permitted. And then
It's usually a different use. It's either a more restrictive use in the case of, say, a water well protection district, for example. Maybe more restricted land uses, or it might be a district that's more permissive for certain uses, which I guess it would be in this case, in a sense. The underlying district would still be enforced, so say there's a farm underneath it, or whatever it may be, whatever the use is underneath it, that would stay.
Okay.
Based
But,
on-
but let's just use an actual example. We had, let's just call it 2 applicants come before us, and one of them happens to be here tonight. And it's if I remember correctly, it's a residential zone, but in past it was an industrial zone, and it's sandwiched between 2 industrial zones. There's not a whole lot of, just in a broad stroke, there's not a whole lot of issue, or would it bother any areas in that particular instance. However, if we have an overlay district, and we reference the other applicant that was surely more of a residential zone that would affect other residents as far as being in, I don't want to say a neighborhood, but more of a inhabited residential zone. How do we identify it's okay for one residential zone and not the other?
You have to find some certain criteria. I don't think you'd want to include APR properties, because it's not going to happen anyway, because the agricultural rights go up by the state.
APR?
Agricultural preservation restrictions.
Okay, yeah.
Or the chapter 61s. 61 is forestry, 61A is agriculture, and 61B is recreation.
Mhm.
Those have been set aside with a special tax rate,
Right.
so you may want to avoid those second. That would entail the whole process. If someone wants to give up one of those, they have to offer it to the town first, and the town has another 20 days to accept it or refuse it. And then it goes through another process where the taxes get paid back and so forth, so it's pretty complicated on that one. So you may want to avoid categories that are in either of those.
Okay. So let's say we,
Excuse me, Don, and from what I remember from one of our previous conversations or previous meetings, that Dudley has the second largest amount of APR land in
That's right,
the state.
that's right.
So do you have any idea of how much that is out of the town?
I don't know if you know.
No?
I'll certainly find out, but that's not on the top of my head.
So, I mean, we could easily find out what that is, you know, let's just,
I can get that from the assessor's office, I was
right,
expecting it.
and let's just say that land is not, that's not part of the overlay. So it's everything, let's just say it was everything but. I mean, that could be half the town.
Yeah, easily.
Okay, so that makes it a lot easier to pill to swallow.
Exactly, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. So I think that's a good point there, that we look into that and maybe make, because that's an easy criteria to put into the bylaw, that land is not permissible.
right.
You still have to put it on the map, though, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
So let's say the two former applicants that we had, we put we put the warrant article in for this new district, this overlay district, and we identify it specific to what we just talked about, just as a hypothetical. And the two applicants come before us and go through the process, and they're allowed to put this solar farm in. An applicant that comes before, so that's a process. Let's say we have another applicant that hasn't been before us yet. It's just the same process. They would come before us. We would confirm that it's not an APR property and it meets all the criteria, and it would be permissible or not permissible depending on whether those objectives are met, correct?
Well, there would be certain ones you wouldn't want to put, you'd want to consider, because, for example, down by the town line, there's a property there, if you look at the topo, it's a north-facing slope. No sense in putting that as a designation, for example.
Where is
But why
that?
would someone want to do that anyway? I mean, isn't that really part of their due diligence?
You want to use the land for something else in that case, I don't know. It'd be more suitable for the land,
Yeah, I mean,
I'm saying.
solar companies are not putting, a solar panel where there's shade of a chimney
Well, they're
today.
not.
So why would they, why would someone come and spend millions in a,
You could, I'm just saying that
Okay,
there are certain
okay.
criteria you might want to look at that.
okay,
just don't-
right, and I mean, like,
maybe
we
better
also,
for something else.
we also have a large amount of property in town that belongs to the Dudley Conservation Land Trust,
Right,
and I don't think they would want to put their property into
right.
a solar array, so that would be taken off the map. But the other thing that I was thinking about was the criteria for this overlay district. Why couldn't we put in the criteria that the applicant or the solar company that is coming forward and proposing the project has to present to the planning board, which they typically do now, but they have to present to the planning board a proposal in which it's acceptable for every site is different, and every site has has to be judged under different criteria to some extent. But we gotta try to make it fair, but I think we need to put a stipulation in that says, basically, if the applicant cannot properly screen this to the extent where it's acceptable to keep, let's say, the rural character of the neighborhood or the area or the location where it's going, if they can't, like, if they can build a dirt berm and then plant evergreens on top and make it totally invisible, that's one thing. But if they're gonna put a green fence up and everybody's gonna see it, and everybody's opposed to that, then that should be some criteria that the planning board has the ability to reject that proposal, because it's not gonna be properly screened, it's not gonna meet the intention of the neighborhood, it's not gonna have the, we're not gonna be making the residents who live in this neighborhood or area happy. you know, and that's part of it. We want to make them, it needs to be harmonious with the area that it's going to. So if the applicant and the company that's proposing it can give us a screening that would be, you know, out of sight.
Is that at the special permit level? Or at this level?
Well, they need both to get they need both to get, right? They need the special permit and they need, so I don't know where you put it in, but I think we need to have stronger language in there because of the opposition we've seen in the past from residents over this project, or that project. We don't want to make, right now, it's so restrictive. It's out on a lot of ways for income landowners to be able to.
That I'm not in favor. So, you know, residential zone is, you know, it's visible by any abutter within a certain radius that, and this isn't.
It's subjective too, because what is it visible to? Is it visible with screening or without screening? You know, that's.
Yeah, I just think that it, you know, the issues that we ran into, you know, before were, well, I'm up on a hill and, you know, I bought that house because I could see, you know, into the, and, you know, and I can, now I'm gonna be looking at a solar farm, you know, that sort of, and that's just an example, but I would just myself, I would prefer to see, you know, something more defined rather than us being the tiebreaker, so to speak. Well, you know, it meets all of the criteria except, you know, these few, even with the berm, I can see, you know, one small edge of the, and I don't know if it's probably not even possible, but.
I have one question. This is about the solar farms that are already in existence, because wasn't there things already put down that they were supposed to be hidden, but they're not?
They're supposed to
So-
be
They're screened. They're just-
adequately screened, and that's the thing. It's arbitrary.
Yeah, because, I mean, the one in front of
So
Shepherd Hill isn't
someone's-
screened at all.
Yeah,
It's going up a hill.
So that, okay, so, but, I mean, if they didn't even try to screen it.
but the last,
The green fence and the trees that they planted by the road, that was their screening.
Okay, so
And
that
it
is
was-
arbitrary also, so.
and there was a lot of discussion about that. It was a smaller tree, and they said, no, we'll put a larger tree, and we're only gonna put green on some of the fence. And we said, no, we'll put it on all of the fence. They were very accommodating. They did everything that the applicant, or that all of the residents, the abutters wanted, but it still met opposition. And the town still was in a lawsuit about it. And that's what I'm trying to avoid, I guess, is just, if it's not this, then you know, like, almost like the flow chart, you know, that you'd follow. And that's the only reason I'm bringing that up, but, and I think I don't know. I think in both of the current applicants that have come forward, none of that would apply to. It wouldn't be an issue for either, but that's not necessarily why we're doing this. We want to do it so that we don't miss out on opportunities that we know we will with a restrictive solar bylaw. I don't think that there's any town anywhere in central Massachusetts that is as restrictive as we are on solar farm. But that's fine. It was a bylaw that was written, the town adopted it, and that's what it is. It's not our decision, but.
It went to town meeting, so.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, absolutely. And the 50 people that were there voted on it. But, I mean, I think that's, you know, I think it's a great discussion, but, and I really, we have time. I would really like for this to be, you know, part of, this to be one of our warrant articles. I think it's really important for the town to make sure that this does happen. So, I think we should have some additional discussion about it.
As far as approaches, you look at the second page of that handout, that's the approach was taken for the Mill Overlay District. Some actual designation of actual lots.
For the mill conversion.
Mill commercial?
Yeah, on the second page, we're looking at mill conversion
Mm.
overlay.
The mill conversion, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what's circled there.
Yeah,
Right, that's encircled. That's another approach. That's actually on the zoning map too, if you look at it.
And I'm sorry, what does this have to do with the,
well, he's saying instead of doing like the whole town, we just pick 2 or 3 lots and say this is where it's gonna go.
okay.
Not
So it's-
necessarily 2 or
it's
3 or whatever, but
It's only 2 or 3 lots. And then if more people come forward down the line, we'd have to put an amendment into the overlay district to
To include them?
include them,
Okay.
you know. It's kinda like we're not letting the cat out of the bag all at once.
Just a par at a time.
Right. It definitely helps you keep control of it.
So where was this second applicant?
It was Ramson Road, Corbin Road area, in this area right here.
What number, do you remember what number it was?
I don't remember what number it was.
I wasn't here that evening.
And I think from the
99?
proposal that they gave, he had a proposal with the panels marked out where they were gonna go, and there was like a 5-acre parcel that had to be cleared. The rest of it was gonna be, was field. And on that proposal, I do remember there was one neighbor that was objecting to it. But that's pretty rural. And it's not like that's not a subdivision out there.
And was there a third one? Do you remember?
another approach another approach you can take is to designate a certain lot size as a minimum. I've seen 4 acres in here somewhere.
Yeah, we currently have that in our solar bylaw, I believe,
Yes,
for large scale,
right.
minimum of 4 acres. Don, you said that there was another applicant that had come forward, had called you and inquired about what the ability was to do a solar farm, and what's...
I remember 2 in particular, obviously the petitioner at the last town meeting and the one off Ramshaw Road.
Right, but then you had mentioned that...
There might have been another one, I have to look at my notes on that one. I don't recall offhand.
Yeah, and there was another person that had contacted me to ask me what the situation was, and I basically told him if it wasn't currently zoned industrial, it wasn't possible unless the overlay district went in. So there's a potential for 4. But you have to, just because somebody's asking about it doesn't mean that the solar company's already been out and done their survey, and it's a practical thing to do. It might be just a request by somebody versus, an actual project.
So there's certainly some options. Some areas are gonna be obviously, easy, and others are gonna be more complex. But we do need to define a set of rules and regs or bylaws that are fair and will maintain rural character and protect residents and allow the town to, collect tax on land that's not currently being used and a whole bunch of other things.
I can look at it some more for the next meeting and try to, I'll just look at what other towns have and see. I mean, typically, the only 2 towns that I know around here that are typically very restrictive and always look at rural character and that type of thing is Sutton and Sturbridge. Sturbridge has the
Medical overlay.
Sturbridge has the old history district where they want everything to look old. In Sutton, almost every road in Sutton now is a scenic byway. So,
Okay.
I can look at that. And Dawn, if you can see, if you come
Have
up
any
with
comments?
ideas.
I do with, one thing I was thinking is buffer zones, and, somebody, within a residential area.
Could I have your name, please? I'm sorry, could I have your name?
Tom
Tom
O'Connor.
O'Connor,
Oh, come on.
one of the projects we're talking about. Buffer zone is, just what you guys were just talking about. I'm thinking maybe, a buffer zone. You don't want, obviously in a residential area. I know there are some in town when they're very close to, other houses and, but a buffer zone, certain buffer zone might be an option. The other thing you said about somebody who, bought a property, and because he can see it half a mile away, well, you're always gonna have somebody that's, may not like it, but,
Right.
solar's a good thing. It's good for everyone. It's good for the town. It's good for the planet. It's the most, green thing you could do.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you're saying makes sense. It's just that buffer zone thing might be something where you, keep it away from residential, certain.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Okay. Yeah, our planner has certainly given us some, things to think about based on, whether it's just certain areas or, areas that meet certain requirements or what have you, but, and Guy has done a lot of research for us as well. My feeling is that, it is complete. I think we're a lot closer than we were. And so, if you, Guy, if you are volunteering to maybe just, put one last look at it and see if there's, a way we can, craft this bylaw so that, we can meet all of the objectives, of the town that we just kind of mentioned. That would be great. And,
I'll make a few phone calls and see what I can come up with for the next meeting.
okay. And then, I certainly, like I said, my, my goal is that, we have this as a warrant article for, this coming town meeting. So, obviously, time is the essence.
One more thing I'd like to mention too, Guy, you hit on it. Just because you have a property, there's a lot of criteria that the solar company needs. It has to be, like you said, facing south or east. You have to have 3-phase within a very short distance, which, if you don't have that, and 3-phase isn't everywhere in town, very important. There has to be room in the line to add power to it. So you may have 3-phase and there is nowhere to add to it, and you have to have a transmission station fairly close. So there's a lot more, my solar person said, they know Dudley, they've looked at Dudley a long time, and he doesn't feel there's a lot of places in Dudley that fit all the criteria that make sense for a solar company. So maybe that could be part of, you get a proposal, from a solar company. Somebody that just has land might think that they might be able to put a solar field on, but, realistically, it may not work.
Right.
It's certainly part of it to look at.
Yeah.
Phase.
All right, good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Get this over there.
Nope.
The next handout is just another example of how this might be worded, but it's. I don't
I'm sorry,
know.
couldn't hear you.
The next handout is just another example of how it might be worded.
And this is still on the overlay district,
Right.
just another way of doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have one final one?
One final article.
Yep.
Recently, Nelson and I noticed that the commercial and industrial section of the sign section of the zoning bylaws is not very well worded, shall we say. Very confusing, very choppy. So I'm proposing that we reword it as you see here. The existing is on the first page of that one. You can see signs shall regulate to the premises on which they are located and shall only, this needs to start right. It's just the wording is kind of, is off in that whole paragraph, so I'm suggesting that we redo that section, more like you see on the second page. Commercial sign standards and industrial institutional size sign standards, institutional being is schools, libraries, that type of thing. Hospitals, if we ever had one. Something of that type.
Okay.
And what's the motivation behind this, Don?
The way it's worded right now is very choppy and disjointed.
Okay. Well, I see animated or flashing light type. Is that listed up here?
I didn't change that one.
No.
Okay.
So this is what we have existing. This is what he wants to propose. Second page.
Oh, okay.
Right here, this is the new
I
one.
just printed the whole page, I guess. I didn't change that section. That's
Okay.
all.
It says essentially the same thing, but it's just easier to,
It has a standard for wall signs, a standard for pole signs, and a standard for
okay.
ground-mounted signs.
All right, good.
And off-site advertising signs, billboards aren't allowed.
And that building inspector was in agreement with this.
He's basically in agreement with it. I have to go over it with him again tomorrow night, but
Okay.
he's basically in agreement with it. It looked like it was,
Well, he's the one that has to enforce it, so
yeah, I know he has.
we have to make sure he understands it.
Yeah. I met with him last night for a while, and we went through it briefly, and then he drafted it today, and we'll go over it again tomorrow night, but I think he's satisfied with this.
Okay.
But there's no change at all to, there's no restrictions, no additional restrictions or,
I don't know if there's additional restrictions or otherwise, but what it amounts to is that, say, for example, on pole signs, you'd have, the size of the sign could be 1 square foot per linear foot of frontage up to 150 square feet of signage.
Okay.
The signs on the buildings, you take the lateral square footage of all the walls of all the buildings, the exterior walls of all the buildings, the total signage on the buildings can't exceed 5% of that total square footage of all the walls combined.
okay. So that's a change? Is that what you're saying? Or,
Well, it's a change, but it's a clarification. It's the same principle, I think.
okay.
It's much clearer, I hope.
Questions? Looks good, Don. Yeah. Okay. All right. Anyone have any questions on the bylaws?
No.
No? Guy, you're gonna follow up on the overlay? Thank you. And Don, thanks for the effort you put into doing this. Appreciate that.
I'll see if I can, once we get some criteria, I'll see if I can work with CMRPC
Yeah.
on that.
Okay, great. All right, before we move on, I wanted to just share with the group who's waiting on the A&R for Linda Vista. It obviously appears that Sean is not going to attend tonight. Sorry for that. And we'll just have to take this up at our next scheduled meeting, which is Wednesday, September 27th. Sorry about that. Okay. You're welcome to stay, however. Item E, discussion on the status of economic development planning.
Next week, at the Economic Development Committee meeting, if anybody would like to go, I'll get posted as a planning board meeting as well, if we have a chance to get a quorum. CMRPC will be making the initial presentation on the findings. So we'll collect the information that's collected for the study and take it from there. We're looking to have a more comprehensive public session on the meeting on which is October. I don't know, it's the third Wednesday in October anyway, so we probably will have more comprehensive meeting in that with some more public participation, possibly a SWOT analysis.
So that's, I missed when you said the date for the next meeting where you had it scheduled as a possible planning board meeting. What was that date?
It's the third Wednesday in October. I'm not sure right
Third
offhand.
Wednesday in October, okay.
I can find out in a second if I take my cell phone out. But there's a meeting next Wednesday as well. There'll be some of the information presented, the background information presented. If anyone would like to
Third
attend that.
Wednesday in October is the 18th.
This year, that's well before town meeting, because town meeting is the 30th, so.
Okay.
If anybody's interested in attending this meeting next week, I could post it. I don't know what you want to do.
What do you guys want to do?
I would go to the one on the 18th.
Yeah, I could make the one on the 18th as well.
What time does it start?
Same as ours, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
And where is it?
Yeah.
Right
Oh,
here.
it's here.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I can make that.
Okay.
So it'll be in
So our
between.
meeting will be the 11th and the 25th, and this one will be
In the
the
middle.
18th in the middle.
Okay.
Will that work?
Sure.
Okay. Planner's plate.
There's plate. Oh.
Anything on your plate, Don?
Zoning
Lot
bylaws,
on
the
your
last town
plate.
meeting came through. They were approved by the AG, so as soon as I get it's a lot of spare time, I'll read the bylaws.
So the spring meeting bylaws have just gotten approved just in time for a fall town meeting.
That's right. So I'll be updating that bylaw. Get it online and so forth.
Okay.
As you indicated, we have a letter from Sean.
Yeah. I was just going to read it. I don't know if you want to
If
read
you
it.
want to read it, we also have a letter from, I think most of you know Joan, right?
Yeah.
Who?
Joan Gardecki.
Joan Godecki, our minutes clerk.
Yes?
She's resigning too. She's retiring officially. She's really retiring this time. Joan's a terrific person.
Yeah, we got great minutes because of her. All right.
So I don't know how you want me to handle that, but we do have to look for a replacement somehow. I guess the first thing I should do is contact the personnel board.
Was she designated as the floater for the town hall?
Pretty much, yeah.
So
She
hopefully.
was working for the personnel board. She primarily works in the accountant's office, and she was voted for doing minutes with us. And I think she's actually worked for the selectmen possibly in the past too, as well as the Conservation
Hopefully they can
Commission.
find somebody with experience that can replace her, and then we could probably utilize.
Maybe some
that
people in
person.
town hall are interested, so we can. I thought of one, and I heard of another one, so
Okay. Because we're gonna need somebody.
I'll check
When's
with
her last day?
the 29th, I believe it is,
Of October or September?
September.
Okay. Best.
If she doesn't get out quick, she won't get out. That's what happened last time. So, yeah, so as Don mentioned, we've also received a letter of resignation from Sean Guerin, who's a active planning board member here with us. He did write a nice letter. I thought I had it here, but,
It's in the
It's in the packet.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
great.
Under town planner's plate, I think it is.
Under where?
I think it's
Town
under
planner's
E,
plate, I think.
under F.
Oh, okay. So I can read it real quick. It comes with this is from Sean Guerin, and he sends this to the Town of Dudley residents, also the planning board and other offices within the municipality. It comes with great regret and sorrow. Tonight will be my last public meeting, and I will be turning in my resignation as a standing elected member of the planning board due to employment opportunities and future endeavors of my family's growth and well-being, as well as relocating to the Carolinas within a very short period of time. I'd like to take this time to give my thanks and appreciation to the residents of Dudley, my fellow board members, and all of the offices and personnel within. It has been an amazing part of my life, and I will never forget and will always cherish, no matter what the tone of each of the and every memory was, some filled with laughter, along with those that were unfortunately extremely stressful. I will miss you all when we finally move on. May God bless you all. Sean Guerin. So, yeah, Sean, we certainly feel the same way, and appreciate your time certainly on the planning board. Know you were involved in a lot of the events that were held here at the town hall, and very involved in the community, so you'll be sorely missed for sure. But we wish you nothing but the best in the future, and the new occupations and your family. Thank you. Okay.
Process on this now, we have a certain amount of time to send a letter to the board of selectmen, we have a certain time to meet with them and appoint a replacement member. How do you want to handle that? You want me to get right to the selectman's office?
It's a joint vote between the Board of
Joint vote,
Selectmen
That's right,
and the planning board, right?
Mhm.
right.
Yeah, so I guess we could ask for volunteers, because it would just be to fill the position until the next election, which is in
Mhm.
June.
Yeah, that's right. His term was up in June.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do, if we're all in agreement, again, it's been a little while since Tom Holt has had to leave the board due to medical reasons. I have not chatted with him in a while, but I did see him probably a month or two ago. So I can certainly reach out to him to see if might be interested in coming back, if he's in a position to. And I can report back to the group about that. But let's certainly put some feelers out, each of us, for others that we feel as though might be an option, because as Don stated, time is important as well.
Right.
Especially in light of a situation like we had tonight. And we certainly don't like to have anybody be delayed in any of their projects that they have going on, so that'd be great. All right.
Okay, so I'll contact the selectman's office as soon as I can to let them know that there's a vacancy and set the process in motion.
They could maybe put a notice on the website, too. They have vacancies on boards on the website.
I don't think we put that on I'm working on, that's another thing I'm doing, I'm working on the planning board webpage, it's a little bit
Okay.
with TLC. And I'm also putting something together, sort of a summary of, I've done similar things in the past of what the planning board actually does.
Okay.
So to make it a little bit more helpful, hopefully.
Okay.
Well, as far as an announcement like that, I think we put it on the front page of the website. I don't think we put it on the very planning board page necessarily.
Yeah, well, that's fine. If you want to maybe contact, who is it that's
Deborah
doing that?
Thibodeau
Debbie?
is
Yeah.
the webmaster.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll, would you maybe check in with her and see if there's something that we can post?
Yeah, we can do that, sure.
Anyone who goes on our town website is probably a likely candidate. All right, great. Any comments, planning board comments?
I just have one. I think everybody probably received it. I think it went out to everybody on the planning board. But there was some residents here last week, or last meeting, from Men's Own Drive. And these two gentlemen in particular seems to have done quite a bit of homework and have now, with their last correspondence, have stated that they've consulted an attorney as well as a civil engineer on their situation. And they're basically asking at the end is, what's next? So, I mean, all I can give you is my take on this. I know I tried to explain it to them when they were here at the last meeting, and this is my take personally. I don't know how the rest of the board members feel, but we're given a set of criteria by the state for approving A&R lots on existing adequate ways. And that's under Mass General Law, Chapter 41, subsection 81L. And there's 3 criteria which they provide us: a public way, or a way which the municipal clerk certifies is maintained and used as a public way. That's number 1. Number 2, a way shown on a plan approved and endorsed in accordance with the subdivision control law. That's number 2. And number 3 is a way in existence when subdivision control law took effect in the municipality. And ironically, in the documentation that those 2 individuals provided, they gave documentation that provided us with all 3 of those things. So we have met all of those 3 criteria. We only need to meet 1 criteria to approve an A&R plan. But
we met all 3.
But we met all 3 in this particular application. Now, they're saying that there's an issue with easements or variance, with easements, not with variances, but with easements. I mean, I'm not an attorney. Nobody on this board's attorney. We're lay people. And for the almost 10 years that I've been on the board, those are the only 3 criteria that we really looked at in ever applying to.
We can look at, really.
Really?
A couple of other things, like if there were more than one principal building on a lot prior to subdivision control law being accepted, and if you, variances that subtract from and take away lots, don't create new frontage.
So, I mean,
There's very little criteria you can look at. It's really only about
we're not attorneys, and I don't think we can invoke town council every time something out of the ordinary comes up.
I think what they're looking at really may come down to be title issues, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've done a lot of work. I'm amazed to see that someone would go through all this, which they did. Maybe one of these individuals is a candidate for the planning board, because they know what they're doing, and they're digging all the right stuff up. But I mean, the only thing I could say is, in my opinion, I don't think we can invoke town council to give legal opinions on what I'm gonna have to consider this as a personal matter.
Mhm.
I mean, they both think they have rights in this situation, and they may very well have the rights, and if they do, I think the only way that they can bring them forward or prove that they have these rights is to hire an attorney and work it out with the abutters. Because I don't think it's a town issue. I think we did what we were supposed to do, and that's my opinion. I think if they want to pursue this, they have to do it on their own. I don't think it should be. I can't see other taxpayers paying for town council's opinion for for 1 or 2 individuals' personal lots. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I just thought I'd bring it up and say that, I read everything he sent on the second email. A lot of it was the same stuff, but I looked it over again. And, I mean, he could very well have something here, but like I said, I'm not an attorney, and we're not supposed to, if we had to dig this deep every time an A&R plan came into us, we would never approve A&R plans.
I spent a lot of time on this, I'll tell you.
Yeah. So, that's just my opinion.
I found that the right-of-way has been there possibly since 1908.
Right.
Yeah, so my opinion is I'm in agreement with, what you have identified, and I appreciate you bringing it up as a board member.
Yeah, I agree, I totally agree.
So we'll just let that one work itself out. We've done our job, so to speak, and we certainly respect, you know, the research and the misunderstanding or concern that the two gentlemen have that were before us, and so we'll try to be as cooperative as possible, but it's all in our book of bylaws, and if we can be of assistance or the planner, feel free to ask. All right. Anything else from the planning board members? No? I know that you're spectating, so we don't have comments from the audience. Anything else from our town planner?
No.
That's it?
Back
All
to
right.
work on bylaws.
Okay. Entertaining a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
We have a motion
I'll second that motion.
and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Good night. Thanks, Fred.